Imagine a king so obsessed with power that he resorts to magic to control his people. But his chief magician is getting old and needs a successor. The king finds a brilliant young boy, the perfect candidate to learn the dark arts. But on his way to the magician's lessons, the boy keeps passing a humble monk, a quiet worshiper of the one true God. The boy is torn. Should he choose the path of power and darkness, or the path of faith and light? One day, a huge beast blocks the road, terrorizing everyone. The people are helpless. This was the boy's moment of truth. He picked up a stone, prayed to God to show him the right path, and threw it. By the will of Allah, the beast fell, and the boy knew in his heart that the monk's way was the true way. The story could have ended there, a simple tale of faith found. But what happened next would change everything, sparking a chain of events so dramatic it would be remembered for all time. The boy's faith grew strong. He began to heal people from blindness and leprosy, not by his own power, but by the power of Allah. He made it clear to everyone, I do not cure anyone. It is Allah who cures. News of his incredible gifts reached the royal court. A high-ranking courtier who was blind sought out the boy. By Allah's permission, his sight was restored. When the king saw him, he was stunned. Who restored your sight? He demanded. The courtier bravely replied, My lord and your lord, Allah. Enraged, the king tortured the courtier until he revealed the boy's identity. But the king's fury was far from over. The king then seized the boy, subjecting him to immense pressure until he revealed the location of the monk. The king confronted the monk, demanding he renounce his faith. The monk refused. The king's cruelty knew no bounds, and the faithful monk met his end. Then the believing courtier was also brought forth and met the same fate. The king thought he could extinguish this new belief by force. He was wrong. The real challenge was yet to come. The king now turned his full attention to the boy, the source of this rebellion. He ordered his soldiers to take the boy to the top of a mountain and throw him off. But as they reached the peak, the boy prayed. An earthquake shook the mountain, and all the king's soldiers perished, while the boy walked away unharmed. The king was in disbelief. How could this be? He tried again. This time, he commanded his men to take the boy onto a large ship and throw him into the sea. Once they were far from shore, the boy again turned to Allah in prayer. Suddenly, the ship capsized, and all the king's men were lost to the waves. And once more, by Allah's will, the boy returned to the king, completely safe. The king was desperate. All his power, all his soldiers, all his authority meant nothing against this one boy protected by a higher power. Can you imagine the king's frustration? He was the most powerful man in the land, yet he couldn't defeat a single child. The boy, seeing the king's utter failure, then revealed something that would seal the king's fate. He told the king, You will not be able to get rid of me until you do what I tell you. The king, desperate, listened closely. The boy laid out a plan. A public spectacle. You must gather all the people in one place, the boy explained. Then you will tie me to the trunk of a tree. Take an arrow from my own quiver, place it in your bow, and before you shoot, you must say, In the name of Allah, the Lord of the boy. The king saw this as his chance for a final public victory. Little did he know, he was walking directly into a divine trap. He agreed. He gathered the entire kingdom. The boy was tied to the tree, and the king took the arrow, aimed, and shouted for all to hear. In the name of Allah, the Lord of the boy. The arrow flew, and the boy's life came to an end. But in that exact moment, something astonishing happened. The crowd, witnessing this incredible event, all cried out in unison, We believe in the Lord of the boy. We believe in the Lord of the boy. The king had tried to extinguish a spark of faith, but in doing so, he had just set the entire kingdom ablaze with belief. His public display of power had backfired in the most spectacular way possible. His authority was shattered. Panic and rage consumed him. He had won the battle against the boy, but he had just lost the war for the hearts and minds of his people. His next move would be one of pure desperation and cruelty. This story, told by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the powerful background for a famous chapter in the Qur'an, known as the Towers. The Qur'an condemns the people of the ditch, who persecuted believers for no other reason than their faith in Allah. The book describes them sitting and watching as believers were cast into a great fire. Many scholars connect this Quranic passage directly to the events that followed the boy's martyrdom. In a desperate attempt to regain control, the king ordered huge trenches to be dug. He filled them with fire, creating terrifying pits of flame. His soldiers then rounded up all the new believers and gave them a terrible choice: renounce your faith or be thrown into the fire. The people, their faith fresh and unshakable, refused to turn back. One by one, they chose the fire over abandoning their newfound belief in the one true God. They walked towards their fate with a courage that defied the king's tyranny. The scene was one of both horror and incredible inspiration. Then, a young mother with a baby in her arms was brought to the edge of the ditch. She hesitated, her heart breaking for her child. In that moment of doubt, a miracle occurred. The infant, who could not yet speak, turned to her and said, "O mother, be patient, for you are on the path of truth." Those words gave her the strength she needed. This event showed that even in the face of the ultimate test, Allah's support was with the believers. Now, you might be wondering, is this a real historical event? Did this actually happen? The story in the religious texts doesn't name the king, the boy, or the specific location. It's told as a timeless lesson about a king among those who came before you. However, historians have found a very compelling real-world candidate for this event. Around the year 523 CE, in the ancient city of Narration, in what is now southern Arabia, a terrible event unfolded. The ruler of that land, a man known to history as Dunuas, commanded a great massacre of the Christians of Narration. The reason for this persecution was purely religious, and historical accounts, including ancient South Arabian inscriptions, describe people being cast into burning ditches. An inscription from that very era describes persecution around Narration. So while the hadith tells the spiritual story, history provides a chilling echo. The story of the boy, the king, and the people of the ditch is not just a tale from the past. It's a powerful lesson about the nature of true power versus worldly authority. The king had an army, a magician, and a kingdom, but his power was fragile, built on fear and control. The boy had nothing but his faith in Allah, yet that faith was strong enough to topple a tyrant, even in death. He understood that true victory isn't always about surviving the battle. Sometimes it's about standing for the truth, no matter the cost. His strategic brilliance was in turning the king's own tool's public execution and a declaration of power against him. He became a legendary hero whose courage created a wave of belief that could not be stopped, a symbol of unwavering resolve that echoes through history. His story reminds us that even when things seem darkest, faith can create a light that no tyrant can extinguish.